So I just got out of watching Ballerina, and I think it's the definition of how to perfectly spin off a franchise. I think after John Wick 3, kind of John Wick 2, we really saw ourselves in a point of the world where it had expanded so much more than any other original action franchise that we've seen in a really long time, to the point where we could get a spin-off. And then we got the movie announced. It was originally supposed to come out in like June of 2024, and then it got a year delay, which was not a good sign at all whatsoever. I want to specifically talk about Ana de Armas, the John Wick inclusion, all of the lore, and how this movie intertwines it all perfectly. But I do want to start with the reshoots, because apparently the original director wasn't even present on set for the 2 to 3 months of reshoots. It was basically Chad Stahelski stitching together and fixing this entire film. And you can kind of see that because the back half of the film is just one big action sequence, but I think that works to its advantage perfectly. I want to get into it by talking about the Ana de Armas thing that I had started with. I think she is an interesting actor. I've actually already seen Eden, which I don't think comes out for another couple of months, and I think that's easily her best role until this film. I think Ballerina is easily at the top of her entire filmography, and I don't think it's a very difficult height to be on. I mean, she's in movies like Deep Water, Ghosted, Blonde, Knock Knock. The list of really shitty movies goes on and on. She's so good in this movie, I instantly was just like, spectacular, give me 14 of them. The first half of the film definitely relies a lot more on Ana de Armas's acting skills, because we actually need to believe in Eve as this character. But the moment that really struck me was that first iceberg lounge, the first hit that she goes on, that kind of action scene, because you really are able to tell the balance of this being her first time doing this and then quickly evolving as we jump time and skip into her being more of a seasoned assassin. And I really like that. And as she becomes more of a seasoned assassin, she runs into people from her past, the people that killed her parents in that group. I don't want to specify that group too much, but I will say it expands on the lore of this world without really breaking it. Like, it's a really interesting cult slash group of assassins, and I just think it's the perfect expansion of this world, really similar to movies 2 and 3 in the John Wick franchise. And this expansion of the world leads us to a perfectly sufficing and strong enough story. I'm not going to say this is a perfect story. I'm not going to say it's paper thin either. I think it just works enough, and that's kind of what this franchise relies on. I think John Wick 4 actually gives us more in terms of character work, because it is the fourth and seemingly final film in the franchise, even though I think they are going to do a John Wick 5, which we'll talk about later. And I think the second half being one big action sequence is just because of all of the reshoots. Like I said before, they did 2 to 3 months of reshoots. Chad Stahelski basically took over this entire film. The original director wasn't even on set, and I think that works to this movie's advantage so much. It is so inventive, and it really does understand the levity and the heights that the John Wick franchise has hit, and it tries to hit those and sometimes goes over that, in my opinion. Like I said, the whole second half is an action sequence. I think it really kicks off with after this main like hotel chase scene with Norman Reedus, who, by the way, he was also completely added in reshoots, if I'm not mistaken. His character did not exist in the original script, but that kind of leads into this really great grenade fight sequence. And then basically we have a whole town, like this whole entire cult town is fighting Eve, chasing her down. And then that leads into like the big final fight that's like 45 minutes in and of itself, that has one of the most absurd shots of the entire John Wick franchise, where it's just 2 flamethrowers sniping at each other as they're trying to traverse these tunnels. It is just, I can't believe the words I'm saying. It's so good. And I think the sets are also just so aided by the beautiful cinematography. Even the original stuff in the first half does look really great, and I'm just kind of assuming that the action is what they reshot, because why else would you bring Chad Stahelski back on? But everything consistently looks just like the franchise. It doesn't feel like a cheap spin-off or something that was just kind of thrown together, even though it kind of seems like it was according to the behind the scenes drama. And one thing we don't know if it was included in the latter parts of reshoots or not was the John Wick inclusion, which honestly, I understand it from a marketing perspective. I get it. It's a John Wick franchise. You need John Wick fans to come back for a reason. And the lore is not reason enough in marketing. And we really did see that with the Continental spin-off TV show. Also the fact that that was just released on Peacock. But nevertheless, I kind of felt like it was unnecessary. John Wick's inclusion in this movie can be split up into 3 different different things. In the beginning, he has a little conversation that kind of inspires Eve to break out of this lifestyle and kind of do her own thing, become an assassin. And then the latter two inclusions are more so in an action sense. And honestly, I think the first inclusion was more than enough. At the end of the day, I absolutely loved Ballerina. I don't think it's a perfect film, but it somehow does balance enough of the original franchise world, but spins off into its own unique thing to where I think Eve as a character is someone I love to see return on the big screen. Overall, I'm going to give Ballerina an 8.5 out of 10. As always, let me know if you've seen Ballerina, what you thought of it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.